welcome to this week. And this week what I'm going to be doing is talking to Deirdre Quinn, who has now marked a lot of your literature chapters, about in general what sorts of issues are coming up. So thanks very much, Deirdre. So what are they looking like this year? They change from year to year.
Yeah, things actually seem pretty good overall, I must say, and particularly in terms of the amount of effort people put into in gathering materials. So that's great, we've got over that issue. The referencing is good overall, however, there is no room for manoeuvre on the referencing. It has to be perfect in terms of the final dissertation. And I suppose there are the usual issues with regards to the flow of the discussion and the depth to which it goes.
Okay, so let's just deal with those two things, because those are common things that they're probably going to get commented on, so that they're clear what we mean. So the flow, what do we mean with the flow?
Well, you should be able to read something and find yourself being brought through the story, if you like. There should be a feeling of the telling of a story is happening. And if things are too jumpy or there aren't the right links between sections, that doesn't happen. So it's a bit like having a conversation with somebody and being able to follow along without having to stop and think too much about what you're reading.
And there's some key ways of doing that, aren't there? In terms of like making sure that there's links between paragraphs or between sections, that it's not starting from fresh. We have to know, why are you telling us about this now?
Absolutely. I mean, and it literally just takes a sentence or two. That's all at most. And it works so well then in terms of just keeping a flow together. I think sitting down and thinking logically about the structure is good first, so that those overall headings are they're prioritised in the order in which somebody might expect to read them.
Yeah, that's very important. And some of them at this stage aren't going to have that right. Sure, they're not. We're going to be telling them now, I think you need to think about this in a slightly different structure.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's certainly true. And also, it's, we do recognise that people are just starting to explore these areas. So, as we say, this isn't your finished literature review. This is a good first attempt at it. And what we'd like to see as we go forward is that the literature review is always on your mind. As you read things, as you explore more, as you undertake your primary research, you get ideas about how to make your literature review better than it currently is, how to make it more of an orientation for the reader, how to make sure that there are sections that maybe initially you haven't examined, but that you do include in your final lit review.
Exactly, that you might find that there are issues that come up when you go out in the field, and then you're doing your empirical work and you need to then tie them and start writing about them in your lit chapter.
Exactly, and you have something on which to work, you have something it's not as if you're starting to write a whole literature review. Everybody pretty much is in a situation now where they've written a good chunk. And that's great. That's very good.
And the second thing you brought up then is analysis and depth of analysis. And this is something, again, that at this stage we're probably all writing, not only you when you're marking them, but also as supervisors who are reading things as well. That's a comment we're using. So what do we mean by that?
Sure. I mean, it's very easy, and you'll see it very often towards the end of somebody's 3,000 word piece, when they get tired and they just start to summarise articles. And they don't try and relate the articles. What you really need to do is you need to make your discussion and then use the literature to support that discussion. Don't foreground the literature. Don't, present article after article after article. Now, you have to write it like that to begin with to get all of the stuff in order, but the finished product really should be a discussion supported by literature rather than led by literature.
And it's a bit, isn't it? It's always the same that I'm always saying, when I talk about depth of analysis, it's like that we're not just doing the top issues. Exactly. So whatever issue you're looking at, you need to think, well, why is that happening and how is it happening? And then you start digging into the issue
constantly digging deeper, so that what you're coming up with is a complete account. So constantly looking for different angles on the topic, exploring what might shed more light on this question that you've posed.
Okay. And the other thing then, the other term that might be coming up again on the comments is synthesis. Isn't it? So we don't want people saying he said, she said, she said. We want it to be synthesised.
You're looking for a blending, a thinking. Reading 2 or 3 different authors and saying, okay, what are they all saying? And then using their reference, their in-text reference to support your summary, your understanding, your blended synthesis of what's there.
And it's like themes, isn't it? It's like taking everything and then saying, okay, well, what's in common? Who's saying similar things and putting them into groups?
Exactly, or what's different, or what's missing. It's you thinking about what you're reading rather than simply accepting it as it is.
And do you think it's fair for me to say that people who are getting marks that are maybe 50, 55 are people who they're dealing with the issue, there's definitely something in it, but that they're not engaging in enough depth of analysis, enough synthesis.
And again, that word engage, it's almost like you're just putting it down rather than really thinking about it, really analysing it, dissecting the material, putting it back together, figuring
And I think it's fair to say that people that are sitting on that type of a mark can easily pull their mark. Remember when it comes to dissertation, they're marking the lit review separately. Those marks could easily turn it into be a mid-60s.
Absolutely.
You know, it's not that's
Absolutely.
once they realise that they've done wrong.
Absolutely, and I mean that brings us to another topic, which is the quality of written English. Now, it's actually quite good overall this year so far, but the quality of written English will make the difference in a grade for somebody. So if you don't go and have your written English proofed, if you don't work away at it, it could mean the difference in a grade for you. It's really, really important. Yeah.
And I always say as well, I think that you can't beat the thing of sharing with somebody and you're swapping it over.
Absolutely.
Because a neutral eye is going to pick up something that you're too involved and you can't see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Anything else then? Any other words that you're using in your comments a lot that we might need to talk about?
Yeah, I suppose really you've got to connect the pieces. So in other words, you've had a good attempt at a first draft of the lit review, but you really do have to tie that into the primary. So again, you're constantly looking at what do I not know, what am I now going to bring into the primary work, and then once you've the primary work done, work backwards.
Yeah, so the lit review is never finished. The lit review is the last thing you're making a change to before you submit.
It is really.
It's not finished where it is now.
Yeah,
Okay.
because it'll provide explanation when you're getting to interpret things, and maybe you just don't see all the things right, which will be very normal that you wouldn't see all the things that you might see when you get into the primary work.
Okay, that's great, thanks.
Okay.
So hopefully that's helpful for you all. We've touched on some of the sorts of comments that are going to come up on your sheets from your supervisors and also from Deirdre. Remember that the lit review is a work in progress, so you now have the time to sit and think, okay, where did I go wrong, what do I need to do to improve, and it is something that you're going to modify as the process continues. See you next time. You happy enough we touched on? Do you think we touched on?
Yeah.
Sorry.